friends, welcome back to my kitchen. I'm Josefina, and in today's episode I'm going to be showing you guys how I make sopa de albóndigas, which is a Mexican meatball soup. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump in and get started, and I can talk to you guys while I do all the things. I have all of my ingredients set up here, but I am going to have everything listed down below in the description box so that you guys can get all the ingredients ready for yourselves. I'm gonna start off by making the meatballs for the soup. So this is from the half a cow that I bought from the cattle that my parents raised. So this is nice and local meat. And to it, I'm going to add in some minced onion and garlic and oregano and thyme and rice. And it's gonna be so yummy. So first ingredient I'm going to take care of is mincing up this onion. While I am working on mincing up this onion, I just wanted to say, for anybody who is new to my channel, first of all, thank you so much. Welcome to Soil Sazón. I appreciate so much that in this year of illness that I've been having, that so many of you guys have stuck around. So many of you guys have continued to join in and subscribe and show your support and leave me comments and just love on me in my absence. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. I wanted to be more consistent. A month ago, I started trying to film videos all over again. I even still have some that I didn't edit, but my health is just, it's kind of all over the place. It is so much better than it was this year, earlier this year, I mean. But I keep having flare-ups on and off, and because I couldn't be consistent, I didn't want to commit to making videos. And then I reached a point where I was like, you know what, screw it. Putting up something is better than putting up nothing. And so during the times when I am not having a horrible flare-up, I'm gonna just put out what I can. Whether I'm consistent or not, it's okay. You guys are still here for me, and you guys still love me, and I appreciate you guys so much. So thank you for being here. My hands right now they're not in horrible shape, but they're definitely a little flared. So that's why I've got the gloves on. Don't want to get any of this in there because then it burns so bad. I've said it before in a lot of other videos, but the best way and the quickest way to mince up a bunch of garlic is to smash the crud out of it first. Like, whack those bad boys. And then just go to town mincing it, and you will see that your pieces will be so much smaller, so much faster. Now I'm just going to add this in with my ground beef here. To that, I am also going to mince up some oregano. If you're not that big of a fan of oregano and that sounds like way too much, then you do you, boo-boo. Use as much as you want. So I've got that. Goes right in there. I'm also going to be adding in some thyme. I've got lemon thyme, which I am obsessed with because it smells like a lemon candy with a hint of thyme. I could be outside all day just with my face in this little bush, sniffing it up. Anyways, I'm sure many of you already know this trick, but for those of you who don't, herbs are the easiest to peel off of the stems when you pull them in the opposite direction. So all of the leaves on the thyme are growing in this direction where they're going upwards. So I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna pull downwards, and it easily strips off the leaves off the stem without breaking it. And I can just toss that. I'm gonna add in some pepper. I'm gonna do some salt to taste. I've got some rice that I've already rinsed off, and I'm adding that in as well. And the last thing I'm gonna add in is 1 egg. And because I'm a clean as you go kind of gal, I'm gonna clean all this up. And I'm trying to hurry up and do this because I have 1 hour before I need to leave to go to my niece's choir performance. So I gotta hurry up and get it done. So now I'm just gonna leave my little half onion bag off to the side so I can just keep adding trash to that as I go. If I didn't have that little half onion bag, I like to keep a bowl always on my countertop so that when I'm cooking, I can toss in trash for that day. And then at the end of the day, I can, whatever it is that you wanna do with it, whether that's trash, to the compost, to your chickens, wherever it goes, it goes. All right, all ingredients are in. So now, I'm gonna make sure them sleeves stayed rolled back, and I am going to get to work on combining everything. So I'm just going in there and squeezing all I can to make sure that rice gets evenly distributed everywhere in this meat and everything is really well combined. So with these meatballs having rice in them, it's gonna basically have the same effect as when you add breadcrumbs into meatballs or like a meatloaf when you're making it, where it absorbs moisture and holds it into the meatball, especially with ground beef like this, where it was a grass-fed cow, so it's a very lean meat. This rice absorbing that moisture that's in the soup and holding it into the meatball helps it to be a lot more tender. All right, now with that well combined, I'm gonna set that to the side and wash my hands so that I can get going on the next part of the soup. And I just realized I missed an ingredient. I need some cumin in there. If you don't like cumin, you don't have to add it. I have that amount in the description box because you don't want to go heavy on this because then it's just too much. I noticed that a lot of people in Mexican cuisine, and I've said this before, think that we heavily use cumin in like everything. And when cumin is used, it's used in small amounts because you just want to get that like earthy, smoky flavor that it gives. You don't want it overpowering and being like the loudest ingredient in your food. Okay, now I officially have every ingredient and it's well combined, so I'm gonna wash my hands again and then get on to the next step. Okay, so now I'm gonna take my pot and I'm gonna put it on, it's like medium low, but leaning more towards the medium side. And to that, I'm going to add some oil. I'm gonna mince up a large onion and then chunk up a carrot. Just kidding. Now that I survived that, onions always get me. It doesn't matter how often I cook, how much I do. Onions are gonna get me. So I'm gonna add in some oil into my pan. Guys, I was eyeballing this on TikTok for months and months, deciding whether I wanted to do it or not. It's one of those like spray and oil combos. And then one day I got it on Amazon because it was on sale. Best investment ever. I have both of them in there and I'm gonna let those saute until the onions become translucent. I said I was gonna chunk up the carrots, but I decided that I wanted it to have the pretty effect of little rounds, and so I cut them into rounds. How thick you cut your carrots and onions all depends on you. Do things to your liking. You don't have to do it exactly how somebody does in a video. Just do what makes your tongue happy. To that, I'm gonna add in more garlic. So I've got 6 good sized cloves here that I'm gonna mince up. So I've got garlic in the meat and garlic going into the broth. And I'm gonna add that into the soup. Okay, onions are almost fully translucent. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add in some tomatoes. In the description box, it's gonna say 4 Roma tomatoes. Because these are like wombo sized Roma tomatoes, I'm just gonna add in 3. You can also add in some tomato paste. I think an 8-ounce can of tomato sauce. Tomato sauce. If you don't have fresh tomatoes, an 8-ounce can of tomato sauce will be good. So I'm gonna just quarter these and puree them in a blender. I have some translucent onions. So now that we're at that stage, I'm gonna go ahead and add in the tomato paste straight into this. I keep saying tomato paste, and I mean tomato sauce. Sauce. So I'm gonna give this a stir, and I'm gonna let this cook for about 5 minutes. You're gonna notice that it's gonna go from like this pink color to like a reddishy orange color. That is because I am cooking down that tomato, because I don't want it to have a raw tomato taste. If I put that in and then add in the broth, yes, it's gonna cook, but the flavor is gonna be different than if I had sauteed it this way. This is gonna help it to have like that nice, yummy, sweeter tomato flavor versus this raw tomato flavor. So when that's finally ready, I'm gonna add in some beef broth. Here I have 8 cups of beef broth. Anytime that I boil meat, I add in onion, bay leaf, garlic, salt, peppercorns, and I let that cook, and then I strain it out and I'll freeze it so that I can build up enough to can. But this literally was just the perfect amount in the freezer. So I defrosted them, stuck them in this pot, and that's actually gonna help it cook faster because it's not gonna take as long to bring that broth up to a boil, which is gonna help me with my time because I gotta leave in 40 minutes. So I gotta get going. So it's been about 5 minutes, and you can see that that tomato has definitely changed color, and on top of that it's reduced, so it's not as watery anymore, so it's thickened up. And now I'm gonna add in that beef broth. And I'm gonna save this pot to use because my husband is not like me. He's not a soup lover, and so anytime I make soup, I like to make rice on the side so that he can have the ingredients on top of the rice instead of as a broth. So that's a good tip if you guys have any soup haters in your family. Just make them a starch on the side, then you can put it on top. To this, I'm gonna go ahead and add in some salt. I gotta refill this container. So I'm gonna add in some salt. I'm not gonna add in too much just because the meat also has salt and that's gonna get into that broth. I'd rather check later and add more than add too much now and be stuck with a really salty soup. While that's coming up to a simmer, which won't take long because that broth was already heated, I'm gonna start making meatballs. I like to make mine like golf ball size. That way I can just cut it in half when it's in my bowl and eat it that way. Versus if you make really big ones, you'll have to chop it up while you're eating it. If you like the big ones though, go for it. Smaller ones also helps with the cook time of that rice. I'm gonna drop these in as I make them. So when I grab the meat, I like to give it a squeeze to help push out any air that's in between before I start to roll it. That way I get a good, nice tight ball that's not gonna fall apart inside the broth. Okay, I've got all of the meatballs in there. As they cook up, you'll see them floating up to the surface. Right now, they're gonna stay down there. So those are gonna cook for about 10 to 15 minutes. And in the meantime that those are cooking, I'm gonna move on to chopping up the last of the vegetables. So what vegetables you add to this all depends on what you like. Traditionally, there is always carrots, potatoes, zucchini, and corn. Today, I am going to be doing potatoes, zucchini, and cabbage. Cabbage is also something that a lot of people traditionally use. I am not doing corn in mine today only because lately my family just doesn't eat corn when I put it in soup. So rather than have a bunch of corn that I end up just giving to my chickens, I'm gonna skip out on the corn. If I was doing corn, that would have gone in at the same time as the broth so that it would have gotten enough time to get nice and soft, and then the sweetness of that corn would go into the broth and it would be so good. Well, that's okay. I like the corn, but I don't want it to go to waste. So for my potatoes, I have them about this size. If you want to peel them, you can. Skin doesn't bother me or my family. So what I like to do is I like to cut it in half long ways. And then I'll cut these halves in half. And then I'll take that and cut them into 4 pieces. So then again, I end up with these nice chunks. I am going to dice these up to be bite-sized, but I'm not gonna add them in until after the soup is done and I cut the heat. And the reason that I do it that way is because these get soft so fast, and so does the cabbage. And I like for them to have a bite to them. For me, textures really matter with food, and zucchini, it gets this like soggy, mushy, that grosses me out when it gets really cooked. So again, I like to have a bite in it. And these are actually the last of the zucchinis from my mom's garden right before the freeze hit. So I'm the lucky winner that gets to add her garden zucchini into my soup. And I like to do my zucchini the same way I do the potato, where I cut it in half lengthwise, then I cut those halves in half, so then I've got these strips, and then I go through and cut those into good bite-sized chunks. All right, so you guys can see here, this broth is simmering. All of the meatballs are floating up to the surface, so that means that they are cooking through. So it's been about 12 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and add in the potatoes to this and let those go until they're fully cooked through, and then I'll cut the heat and do what I said I was gonna do. So that is gonna cook. I'm not gonna touch the heat. I'm gonna still leave it at medium low, and this time I'm gonna put the lid on and let those cook. Those are probably gonna take another like 10 minutes, and then we'll be done. I won't be able to tonight, but tomorrow when I reheat, I am gonna make myself some fresh corn tortillas so that I can have it with this, because a good old corn tortilla with this soup is just, it's not a complete soup without the corn tortilla. So if you have never tried corn tortillas, you guys definitely need to check out Hacienda. It's so easy, you just add water. I like to add a little bit of salt in mine. I know some people don't like that, but I do. So it's just literally the masarina, salt, water mixed up, and then you get to make your own fresh homemade corn tortillas, which are spectacular and so much better than any store-bought corn tortilla. I've said it before, and I will always say it. If you don't like corn tortillas, it is most likely because you have had basic grocery store corn tortillas, which taste not great. Those are only good for frying. When you guys have some fresh ones, it will change your life. So try those. And if you want to learn how to make corn tortillas, I do have a recipe video for that, and I'll link that also down in the description box. So I'll add in all of the ingredients and their amounts. I'll link in the corn tortilla recipe. I even have a tortilla 101 video if you want to learn about all of the different types of tortillas and the different products that you can get to make them or just have them. And I'll link that also down in the description box. And I'll link down Hacienda's information if you want to check out their website. They have a store locator in there so that if you don't want to order and have it shipped to your house, you can check out to see what local stores in your area do carry them. Some local stores even already have them made and in the bag, so that all you have to do is heat them up when you go home. I've taken the booty off of my cabbage and I'm going to cut it in half. And then I'll cut this in half. And then I'll take this half and also cut that in half. And then from there, I'll just cut in some chunks. So then when I cook, they'll be like this and they'll kind of come apart. And so I'll have these layers. They'll be like soft cabbage that still has a crunch in it. I recently learned the glories of putting cabbage in albóndigas. I love cabbage. And it's cabbage season, so. And because I know some of you notice things, in case some of you guys peeped that milk bottle over there, I do not own any baby cows. I am actually babysitting my parents' calf. Her name is Hope. She's about a month and a half years old. She was a surprise birth. My parents had no idea the mom was pregnant, and she had her and then rejected her. So they had already had a trip to go visit my brother in Texas planned. So they asked me to take care of her. So I've had her for about a week and a half, and she's bottle fed. So I feed her a couple times a day, and it just solidifies that I really do want this homesteading life. And when I have a nice big property, I will have a couple cows to enjoy and love on and cuddle and be my babies and the loves of my life. Well, my farm loves of my life, because I have kids and a husband. Those are the loves of my life, but you know what I mean. All right, my potatoes have cooked through, so I just cut the heat, and now I'm gonna go ahead and add in my zucchini and cabbage. I'm gonna put the lid on and let that sit for a few minutes so the residual heat will cook that zucchini and that cabbage just enough. And now it is complete. Serve myself a small bit because I really gotta get going. I'm already running late now. I am just getting over a cold, so soup is like perfection right now, especially with the cold weather. It's so cold. So I love this soup. I'm so excited. The herbs in that meatball, they give it so much flavor. And that broth, it's so good. The broth gets to pick up some of the flavor from those herbs and the cumin that I added in there. Like I said earlier, you can't just taste straight up cumin. It just gives it this, I don't even know, just like this yummy, rich, smoky earthiness in there. And you can't like pick up on it very loudly. And this cabbage, you can see it's not like super floppy. That's how I like it. If you like floppy cabbage, then you know, cook your cabbage. You can hear that it still has a crunch to it. So good. I had to go in for this meatball. Not tough. Tender little meatball. It's so good. And the base of that broth, that yummy tomato broth. Oh, it's so good, guys. This is seriously comfort food right here. And I hope you guys try it. And I want to keep eating, but I gotta go. Oh my God. I can't wait to get home and have a full bowl of it. Okay. I gotta stop. And I gotta go. But I really want more cabbage. It's like rich but light, if that makes sense. Like a rich, flavorful broth, but it's a nice light. Just, it warms the soul, it warms the belly, it warms the whole body, it warms the mind. Guys, please try this. Please try it. I gotta go and I'm so sad. That is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, I hope that you'll want to hit that subscribe button. Stick around with me for a while on my journey to becoming a homesteader and teaching you how to make Mexican food from scratch. I'll see you in the next one.